Thank you, Member. I call the member for Bundaberg.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I rise to strongly oppose the Termination of Pregnancy Bill 2018. Madam Deputy Speaker, when I rose in this House for the very first time, I made a commitment to the people of Bundaberg. I vowed to serve them with honesty, integrity and compassion for as long as they'll have me represent them. Each and every time I have spoken, I've honoured that commitment, and today is no different. Madam Deputy Speaker, today is not about us as members of Parliament. Today is about the people of our communities and how they feel about the content of this bill. I stand here on behalf of the people of Bundaberg as their voice and their representative, and I'd like to sincerely thank each and every one of my constituents, numbered in the hundreds, who took the time to contact me in regard to this deeply emotive and complex matter. Your contribution is truly invaluable. I would also like to thank those within the Bundaberg community who respected the decision-making process that each member of the Queensland Parliament has gone through over the last 2 months. I can only speak from my experience, but it has been encouraging that those who have approached me in regard to this bill have been considerate and aware that as an MP it is not appropriate that I voice an opinion until a fitting time and place presents itself. It has only been in the last few days that any criticism has arisen. It has been disappointing to see that there are members of my community, and presumably members of all Queensland communities, who have begun to be critical of the decision-making process and are slamming male MPs for voting against the legislation, making this debate a man versus woman issue, or that this whole bill is just to decriminalise abortion. This bill is so much more than that, and every member in this House should be able to freely have their input to the debate without being told that their input is more or less respected because of their gender. Going forward, hopefully those members of the Bundaberg community will respect the Queensland parliamentary process and become aware that matters of life and death are not matters to be taken lightly and are above party politics. After weeks of emails, letters, phone calls and visits, my office has calculated that 99% of the Bundaberg residents who approach me with their thoughts and concerns opposed this proposed legislation. To add even more merit to that figure, 63% of those Bundaberg residents who oppose the bill are female. Hundreds of women have contacted me and expressed their genuine worry and fear for our state's future should this bill be passed. This is where my decision to vote no on this bill has come from. It has come straight from the Bundaberg community. I've considered each and every person's contribution, and I've personally, carefully and thoroughly read all pages of the bill. Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm aware that this bill is one of great complexity, which encompasses several different elements. And that is why I've waited for the suitable time to voice my views, and that time is today. Based on the contact I've had with my community, there are aspects of the bill that are supported, but unfortunately the frightfulness that comes with the bill as a whole overrules those valid aspects. This bill is not about decriminalising abortion. In Queensland, it is already lawful for women to undergo an abortion where it is necessary to prevent serious danger to their life or physical or mental health. In Queensland alone, between 10,000 and 14,000 legal abortions are currently performed each year. Currently, sections 224 to 226 of the Criminal Code prohibit unlawful termination of a pregnancy. It is the unlawfulness that is the criminal behaviour, and that is why tens of thousands of abortions have been performed in Queensland over many decades without one person being found guilty of an unlawful termination offence. Further examples of laws that act on unlawfulness would include the case for a doctor performing an operation not being charged with wounding of their patient, or an assault for performing a medical examination, because these actions are not unlawful. We are now in the second half of 2018. We live in a modern society with modern views and modern ideas. And with that, I think it's fair for me to say that most people would be in agreement that no woman should ever feel like a criminal if in the early stages of a pregnancy she decides a termination is necessary. That is entirely her decision, and that is why necessary abortions are already legal. However, if this bill is passed, it will also become legal for terminations to be performed up to 22 weeks of a pregnancy on request of a woman with no reason required to be given. This could, and in other jurisdictions has, been for sex selection. I accept that late-term abortions are very rare, and in most cases, in the most heartbreaking circumstances, as expectant parents often face the imminent death of their baby from a severe genetic abnormality or other medical condition. However, these abortions are already permitted in Queensland by law. This bill adds late-term terminations for reasons including undefined, current and future social reasons, as long as 2 medical professionals sign off on it. Second trimester abortion, especially late second trimester, raises many ethical issues. One topic which is currently under discussion in the relevant research is the pain caused to the fetus, and whether it should be given pain management or even a general anaesthetic prior to the pregnancy being terminated. There is no consensus on the earliest time at which a fetus can feel pain. Some say 9 weeks, more agree on 13, but it's unanimous agreement on 20 weeks gestation at the latest. From 20 weeks, a fetus has brain activity, can move, has a fingerprint, a heartbeat, and if delivered after 20 weeks, the baby can survive and live a normal life. Even the Queensland Births, Deaths and Marriages Act 2003 requires the birth of all children born in Queensland after 20 weeks gestation or weighing more than 400 grams to be registered as a birth, regardless if the baby is alive or was stillborn. The Act considers this a life. What I have heard from the hundreds of Bundaberg residents is the vast majority absolutely do not support termination after 22 weeks unless there is a serious danger to the woman's life or to their physical or mental health or serious fetal abnormality or medical condition to the baby. That is what I've heard not once, not twice, but hundreds of times. Many in my community fear that if passed, this legislation will allow termination to become an added form of contraception, and it will become a convenient, easy option that people will follow through with, without really thinking it through until it's too late, because it is legal and because they can. Always remember, a vast majority of people are law-abiding citizens with morals that most of us live by, but legislation is required for the minority of people who don't share those morals or want to act in a way that is contrary to what a majority in our society believe. And that is why we have laws covering all aspects of our lives, including abortion. To say no one will have an abortion due to sex selection or a full-term abortion for anything other than medical reasons is completely misguided. If the law allows for it, then it can happen. And if this current bill allows for these events, this current bill allows for these events to happen. If the government members don't want women to be able to have abortions for sex selection, then they should legislate accordingly or be complicit to its eventuality. If members think that all women have the best interests of their children at heart always, why do we have children being taken away from their families by government agencies for their own safety? These are the children we need to, as a society, protect. This proposed legislation ignores the negative health risks and has the potential to cause an influx of individuals affected by detrimental psychological trauma and long-term mental health concerns. It fails to address the support women facing abortions really need, and it removes protections for women against abortion coercion, subjecting women to even more vulnerability when it comes to pressure from their partners, family and/or others. Our hard-working healthcare staff who spend each and every day putting others before themselves will also be placed under immense and unfair pressure should this bill be passed. If a medical professional rejects a patient's termination request, they must refer them to another professional who will perform the termination. Medical professionals who live and work within my electorate have approached me and stated that if this becomes the law, they will have no choice but to change careers. As the Women's Forum has stated, the bill is counterproductive to women's health, removes protection for women, unborn children, medical professionals, citizens, and is a radical departure from the current law. This bill has gone too far and fails human nature, and that is why I strongly object to this bill and will be voting against it. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Member. I call the member for Jordan.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I rise today to make a contribution to the Termination of Pregnancy Bill 2018, and I do so from the perspective